feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Right, Matt, I must warn you.
Yes.
This is going to be an absolute gush fest for me. I'm sorry in advance.
Yeah, that's true.
This is our Judy Garland episode. My choice, absolutely. I absolutely adore the woman and have watched most of her films. I think there's about 2 I haven't seen. I own most of them. I own a number of books about her. I did one of my dissertations for university about her. I just love her to bits. But you're coming from a completely different view here.
I've seen her as Dorothy.
Yes.
I've seen that one, and then I think that was
it.
I think that was it. I saw her in the fabulous Renée Zellweger film.
But other than that,
but apart from that,
nothing.
No, I was a bit sort of new territory.
I think that's everyone now, though. I think everybody's seen The Wizard of Oz because it is.
Yeah.
I think it is the most watched film of all time.
It's possible. I think it was the first film I ever watched.
Yeah, I think it's got that moniker of being the most watched film. I wouldn't be at all surprised. So we are going to be going through a number of Judy Garland's films today. We've split it down the middle. We've got 4 films each. We're going to be going through a little bit about Hollywood at the time and the era she was working in, and how these things that were going on at the time affected her career and who she was.
She's a brilliant case study for that era of cinema because she was a product and a victim of it.
Absolutely. You've took the words out of my mouth.
Good.
Perfect. So
I aim to please.
What Judy Garland had is hard to put into words, but whatever it is, she had it. She was absolutely captivating to watch. Multiple critics have called her one of the most honest performers ever to grace the screen. The late Robert Osborne, the host of Turner Classic Movies, he said Judy was the all-around most talented person that has ever been in films to date, and she's one of the few stars of yesteryear who seems to be gaining more fans of every age bracket. Now, whether that's still the case, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I think one of the reasons is because she had the trifecta. She could sing, and I mean, boy, could she sing. She could
loudly.
dance. Yes, very loudly. And she could act. And if you ask anyone in movies of that time and now, that is a rare thing. She could do it all. And she's been called the greatest entertainer of the 20th century. And I am firmly in that camp.
That's a surprise.
Yeah. I think it's mostly to do with what she brought to a performance in audiences was kind of unrivaled at the time. So I've got a little bit of information, then I'm going to jump straight in. So
cool.
Judy was born the 10th of June, 1922 in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, as Frances Ethel Gumm. Not a very Hollywood name.
No,
you might see
not.
why they changed it. And she signed a 7-year contract with MGM in 1935, aged just 13. And it was another 4 years until her big break in The Wizard of Oz. And in that time, she entered the Star Machine, part of the studio system. So the studio system was most popular through the 1920s to the 1960s.
A golden era, allegedly.
Yes, exactly. They call it the golden era of Hollywood. And the studio system basically was them producing the films, making these films on the backlot. They owned the theatres. They had a number of theatres in all over the country that they would put their own movies out in. So they distributed and exhibited their own movies.
It was like a monopoly, wasn't it?
Exactly.
They owned the means of production and the exhibition and everything. It was a machine.
Yeah, it really was a machine. They were at one point in, I think, about 1937, they were producing about 500 films a year.
Like churning them out.
Yeah, stars were making 2, 3, 4 pictures a year. Every year. Now, the star system was a huge part of this factory. So they would find the talent and they would put them through a series of whatever they thought was necessary to create a star. So they would change the name. They would create a origin story for them, because obviously their real life is just not interesting enough.
Of course.
So they would create a past for them, what they did, where they were from, who they were, and then they would kind of put them through almost like school, really. They would get dancing lessons, etiquette lessons, fencing lessons, horse riding, all these things.
Mad,
so that
it?
so they could basically do anything.
Yeah, they could be a puppet, couldn't they? It's like, this is your persona, this is what we're going to make you do. Dance, monkey.
Yeah, exactly. They changed everything about these people, and then they started putting them into movies and seeing how they performed, what were they best at, what could they do. And then they would release the movies and see if they took a hold with people, how popular these people were. Most of the stars, to be honest, who were the biggest at the time, came through that system.
It's like an alter ego, though, isn't it? It's a celebrity alter ego that they had to
they had to be this person.
Yeah.
Like I said, Judy signed a 7-year contract. That was the normal rate for a contract, was 7 years. And you were owned.
Yeah. You couldn't get out only on very exceptional circumstances.
Yeah, if you refused to do a film, you were suspended without pay, and they would add that time and the movie onto the end of your contract.
Right.
So you just were stuck there.
Yeah.
It was awful, really.
The thing is, even if you were able to leave, you'd be disgraced, wouldn't it? Your reputation would be tarnished. Them and the media were like pals, and they could do all sorts.
Well, exactly. And this is another way they owned you. They had these things called morality clauses. So you could only be seen doing certain things.
That are favourable to the company.
Yeah, exactly. Like women actresses could not leave the house without makeup. They had to be dressed up. They would set up dates between single male stars and actresses to like generate publicity. And then obviously tabloids and gossip columnists would be tipped off where they were going to be with photographers.
It's just crazy, isn't it?
The romantic moment.
And it's just such a fake thing, isn't it? It's that whole American dream, and it's just not. It was completely
fabricated.
Yeah.
And then you've got on the other side of it, any issues, so drug use or arrests, divorces, adultery, any of that, it was all hushed up because they owned the gossip columnists, basically. They would just pay them off.
Yeah.
So there was all sorts of things going on. And in regards to Judy, so obviously they changed that to Judy Garland, which was much more star-like. She was put on a diet. She was introduced to a national radio audience, and she was a consummate performer. So she did thousands, I would think, of tours and things for the studio. And by 1940, the year after The Wizard of Oz, she'd reached her peak star status. And she had songs and scripts written for built around her. Major composers from Irving Berlin, Cole Porter, Saul Chaplin, they all wrote new songs for her because as this huge star, she was money, basically, is the thing. She was money.
It's a commodity, isn't it?
Yeah, that's how they saw her. So they built things for her, around her. You're going to do this, you're going to do this. We've got this script for you. We're going to pair you with this person. We're going to do this. It was all built, and she was part of this factory.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump straight into the first movie now, which we're going to start with The Wizard of Oz, obviously, because how could you not?
Of course, yeah.
But before we do that,
surprise,
we are going to have a quiz. Now, what have you named this quiz, Matt?
It's the Wizard of Oz. Yeah, this is the Wizard of Oz, and I think I've done like an easy, medium, and hard section, but actually the reality is it's probably medium, hard, extra hard.
Right. Okay.
Let's go.
So I'll start if you don't mind.
Absolutely fine.
Which president is mentioned in the song "If I Only Had a Brain"?
You could be another Lincoln.
I love how you sang it as well.
That was my song in the musical.
Very, very well done.
Thank you very much.
Very well done.
Yeah, mine seem hard now. Not really. Okay, what are the names of the 3 farmhands?
Right. Okay. Hunk.
Yes.
Zeke.
Yes.
And Hickory.
Correct. 1 point for Mary.
Thank you very much.
Good start for both of us.
I hope we can carry on that way.
Yeah.
What has poison in it, is attractive to the eye and soothing to the smell?
Poppies.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Took me a second there. I thought.
You hesitated a bit there. I thought you've got to get this one.
2 points for more. Okay.
Yes.
Question 2 for you. Which of these animals does not fly past Dorothy's window during the twister?
Oh, God. Okay.
A cow, a turkey, a horse, or a chicken? See, it's easy, but it's hard.
I don't think there's a horse. I can hear all the
Correct.
sounds in
There's
my
no
head,
horse.
and I don't remember it being a horse.
The turkey was the red herring there because it appears with the chickens.
Yes.
So, yeah, so well done there. 2 points.
Okay, good. Okay, what colours do you see from the horse of a different colour?
That's my next question.
Get your minds think alike.
I always thought there was more colours, but it's definitely purple, red, and yellow.
Yes. Do you have the original colour as well?
It was a white horse.
Yes, well done.
Yeah. Okay, in the Cowardly Lions song,
Oh, God.
if he could be as brave as a blizzard, and the Scarecrow could be as clever as a gizzard, what would the Tin Man be as gentle as if the wizard gave him what he wanted?
Doesn't he say lizard?
Yeah.
I don't understand what a gentle lizard is. Is that a thing?
I don't think much rhymes with wizard,
No.
apart from quizzard. So 3 each so far.
Okay. What is the insect mentioned by the Wicked Witch? It's referring to a whole scene and a song that was completely cut from the film.
Taken another one of my questions.
Sorry.
It's the jitterbug.
Yes, well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
On their way to the Wicked Witch's castle, the Tin Man wields his axe and a wrench, and the lion holds a mallet and a net.
Oh,
But what does the Scarecrow carry?
Oh, my God. Jeez, I have absolutely no idea.
This is quite popular on the internet now. People sort of started realising that this is a little bit unusual.
That's so difficult.
You're better off having a shot in the dark.
Hang on a second. It's not a gun, is it? Like a little
It
silver
is a
gun?
I just realised I gave you a clue.
Did you?
Shot in the dark. It's been verified. The Scarecrow is holding a handgun.
Wow. Okay. What profession did the Wicked Witch, Margaret Hamilton, have before going into acting?
Oh, for God's sake.
Which I think's really funny. I always thought this was really ironic, considering.
Let's think. Witch. She probably something over hats. Maybe she was a hat maker. Broom. She was a cleaner. Hang on. Something to do with laughing. Something to do with cackling green. Something to do with green.
No,
she was a greengrocer.
Yeah,
she was a.
Don't go something to do with the character exactly that she played. It was it's just a normal job.
Okay, she was a baker. I don't know.
Is that your final answer?
It's gonna have to be. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. She was a teacher, which I always thought was really funny because she was a school teacher, taught loads of kids, and then for
and then terrified them for the rest of them.
Terrified children, which I always thought was hilarious.
That's a good one. So she's a cleaner.
It's always made me laugh.
Oh, I'm losing now.
What's my next one?
Okay, so in the original 1900 novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, what colour were the slippers worn by Dorothy for half a point?
They were silver.
Okay, yeah. And why was the colour changed for the 1939 film?
Oh, wow. That bit I don't know if I know. Was it something to do with the actual colour of the film? Was it something to do with that it would show up better? Or, I don't know, something like that?
We'll probably give you that. Yeah, so they were silver shoes, and they were changed to red to take advantage of the new Technicolor film process.
Well, it would stand out better than silver.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. My next one, again, more trivial. Who was originally cast as the Tin Man, and why was he recast?
I hope I get his name right, because I think I tend to get his surname a bit wrong. I think his name was Buddy Ebsen.
Yes, that's correct.
Is that right?
Yes, that's
yeah,
right.
he was recast because he had an allergic reaction to the silver paint.
He did, that's right.
Or the paint dust or
yes,
something.
He had a nasty reaction to it and ended up in hospital. He nearly died, actually. He was very, very ill.
Loads of people nearly died in this film. It's really dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
So, Frank Morgan plays 5 characters in the film. Can you identify them all?
Jesus. Okay, so he plays Professor Marvel.
Yep.
He plays the Wizard. He
Yep.
plays the doorman when they first get to
gatekeeper.
Oz. Yeah. He is the horse driver.
Carriage
driver, yeah.
Horse
And
driver.
Horse driver, you know what I mean. And
Stick a wheel on it.
and he is also the guard that stops
Correct.
them from going into the see the wizard.
Full point there.
Oh, thank God
Well
for that.
done.
What colours are the Lollipop Guild munchkins wearing?
For fuck's sake. We represent.
Very good.
One of them's green,
That's correct.
and I think one of them. I don't think it's orange. I think it's more of a red,
Yep.
blue.
Yes,
one?
well done. That's it.
Oh, thank
yeah.
God for that. I nearly gave you a question. Which one appeared first, the Lollipop Guild or the Lullaby League?
Okay.
Apart from being a fortune teller, name one of the other talents listed on Professor Marvel's wagon.
Oh God. Something to do with the crowned heads of Europe.
Best quiz ever.
It's not something to do with hands, is it? Sleight of hand?
I will give you sleight of hand. He's also a master of juggling, sleight of hand, and he's a balloon exhibitionist.
Oh God. Juggling. I don't know if I'd put that
Juggling's
one
on there. Yeah.
Okay, this is very much of our time, to be honest. So, and I'm sure you'll
Okay.
get this one. What Wizard of Oz song is linked to a British Prime Minister and why?
Oh, it was when Margaret Thatcher died. Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead.
Yeah.
The fact that song got to the top of the charts is quite funny.
I just thought it was completely distasteful. I wasn't amused, though I love the song.
Okay, when the Scarecrow is awarded the diploma by the wizard,
Oh,
which mathematical formula does he instantly recite?
he says it really quick, and it's something to do. It's got side in it. It's not a triosceles triangle or something, is it?
Triosceles. Like a dinosaur.
What's it called?
Isosceles.
I said whatever. Yeah,
You're not wrong, it's to do with triangles.
it's to do with triangles.
It's not what I asked.
It's not pi, is it? Is it pi? Pyth. I can't. I'm going to sound like a complete moron because I don't know math theories. Pythagoras. I don't know.
I'll be nice and give it to you. Yeah, it's Pythagoras' theorem
Pythagoras
for working out the lengths of sides in a right-angled triangle. Although he does say it completely wrong, so
He says it completely wrong.
it's not right. Yeah.
Oh right, okay. No, give me a half point for that one because it's not. It's
Half
not.
point?
Yeah, no, it's not fair to take
Oh,
a full
okay.
point for that one.
All right.
Yeah, no, I'm being fair to you. Okay. What colour is the smoke in which the Wicked Witch of the West appears?
I think it's just red. Like red.
Ooh, I don't know whether to give you that one.
I remember it being reddish. Is it like a dark orange?
I'll give you orange. Yeah, I think I gave you more.
Okay.
I think I gave you more than you possibly should have had there. But yeah, okay.
Maybe I'll have my half point there.
Okay, all right then.
Okay. While not explicitly referenced in the film, what is the official name for the guards of the Wicked Witch's castle?
Oh Jesus Christ!
Jesus.
Didn't know they had one.
They do actually, and I did look. I went on Wikipedia, and somebody is credited, and they do have this title, I suppose,
God.
name.
No, no, I have no idea. I didn't even know there was one. So that's gonna have to go down as a no for me.
This will tickle you.
Go on then.
They're
What is
called
it?
Winkies.
You are joking.
Nope.
Why?
they are the Winky guards.
What?
See, I know that's normal to me because that's in the play as well. And they're like, we need to get hold of 3 Winky uniforms.
Oh wow, no,
Yeah.
I don't know that one. Your last question then. How was the Twister created? And you can give me the most bogged down version of it, it's fine.
Has it got something to do with like a vacuum cleaner hose or something? You're laughing as if that's not the answer.
No, it's not, no. Looks like a twister.
How did they... Yeah, it does. Maybe they put some like black dye in some water and then whizzed it round with a stick and filmed it and projected it. No?
No, that's not the answer. The actual twister itself is a sheet of muslin that they've then they twisted around in like this funnel shape.
I thought it was a vacuum cleaner. Never mind. Okay then. Last question. In the film, the
Mhm.
Wicked Witch poisons a field of poppies
Yeah.
with poison. How I worded
Yes.
that. But what other deadly substance was present during this scene?
Deadly? To do with her or to do with somebody else?
In the scene that was put there as part of the production of the film,
Right.
it's to do with what happens.
God.
It's in that scene.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
I learnt this at work, actually.
I didn't know there was anything else deadly in that scene.
Okay. The answer is that the snow, and this was true for a lot of productions,
Oh my God,
was
asbestos.
made from 100% industrial grade asbestos.
Yeah, it was for a number of years. Yeah, I didn't think to click that together. No, yeah, no, they use that across the industry for decades. Actual asbestos. Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's
terrible.
You just dread to think, don't you? They were just blowing it in their faces and all sorts.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrendous.
Catch one on your tongue. Catch one on your tongue.
Oh my
Not funny,
God.
But again, it's deadly set.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Right. That's the end.
That's the
of
end.
The enormous quiz. I can reveal it's equal.
Oh, are we equal?
Yeah, we both got 7.5 out of 10.
Well, I'll take it. That's quite a good mark. I'll take that.
I think that's very good. I got hiccups, so I'm going to let you talk.
Right.
That quiz has taken it out of me.
Okay. So we're going to jump straight into The Wizard of Oz. I'm going to go over this very quickly because everyone's seen The Wizard of Oz. It's a cinematic masterpiece, obviously. We all know that. There's so many moments that everybody knows it, don't they? They're so well known. And there are a number of things that stand out for me. The first being the score and the soundtrack. Most of the songs are so simple, but there's just something about them. They're full of joy. They stick in your head. And Somewhere Over the Rainbow is, I think, one of the greatest songs of all time.
Yeah, it is one of the best songs put to a film. I
think a few producers wanted to cut it, and they basically said, "Over my dead body." And thank God that they kept it.
Absolutely.
I think it's one of the most instantly recognizable songs as well. As soon as it starts, people know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think the good and evil in this, there's such pure forms of both. You've got the innocent Dorothy and her friends, and then the Wicked Witch. And I think they're just characters that audiences of all ages can recognize. And that's why it's so enduring. I think the scene entering Oz, from that sepia to colour, is one of the greatest shots in cinema. I mean, if you can imagine sitting in a cinema in 1939 and seeing that, because it was so rare at the time as well. Colour is something I always associate with the film. It's just such bold colours in it, green and the yellow, and it is a truly beautiful film. It's very simple. A lot of tricks are used, such as like the matte paintings and camera tricks and stuff, but they're just all so effective, so simple. And that's all I've got to say about it, really. I just think it was a masterpiece. Lightning in a bottle.
It was.
And I've got nothing else to say about it. I think absolutely brilliant.
I love the vacuum cleaner scene. It's really good. Oh, funny.
Okay, we're jumping into your first film. So tell us what it is and what you thought, because it's all new to you, this, wasn't it?
It was, everything I hadn't seen before. So this is 1941, 2 years later, and it is Babes on Broadway, which is the one you suggested I go to, because there's a few similar ones. Babes in Arms, Babes on Broadway, Babes on the Beach, or something. I did make that up.
Yes,
and this is a big Busby Berkeley musical. I had heard his name before.
Yeah, they were called Putting on a Show musicals.
Backstage musicals and things like that,
because they were basically all about kids putting on a show, basically. They wanted to be famous and be on the stage, be on Broadway. And that was... They were all built the same way. The format was exactly the same. They just changed the character names and a bit of the sets, and that was about it.
True. Yeah, the name was a bit confusing, because going in not knowing what it's about, I thought it'd be like Showgirls and like Floozies or something, but it's not. Babes as in kids or young people. So you hit the nail on the head there. The preface of the film, and then they start this way. It's the promise of the American dream. It's about young people flocking to New York, wanting to be a Broadway star, climbing the ladder to stardom and success. And that's where we find the main character, who's played by Mickey Rooney. Again, first time I've seen him in a film before.
Oh, haven't you seen Pete's Dragon?
I've not even seen Pete, never mind his dragon. So yeah, he plays Tommy Williams, and he's sort of like a down on his luck performer. He's in a song and dance trio. He's playing for tips and things like that. But he ends up back at square one, and that's where he meets Penny Morris, who's Judy Garland, who's also down on her luck and feeling a bit like she's never going to make it. My life is over. And the irony here being that these were the two poster children of Hollywood at the time. So to cut long story short, Tommy devises a scheme to get onto the Broadway stage and into the limelight, but it hurts her feelings and puts on a show, like as you say. Mickey Rooney I thought was very charismatic. He reminded me of a bit like a young DiCaprio.
He was a huge star.
That sort of confidence, just boundless confidence.
Yeah, and energy. He's like a little like firecracker.
And then Judy Garland, having only seen her in The Wizard of Oz before, I guess it was a relief that this character was more three-dimensional. So I'm glad I've been able to already see her do something a bit more substantial.
Yeah.
I think it's easy in general to see her as a singer first and foremost, then an actress.
Yes.
So I did start to change my mind about that a little bit in this film, and I'll mention it again in the next ones.
Yeah.
So at this point I was thinking, her singing voice is so distinctive that sometimes it sounds a bit separate to her character.
Yeah.
Just some observations at this stage, but I think that does change.
Right.
In general, I thought the script was really good. It was really energetic and witty, and it worked for those two and their chemistry.
Yeah.
Some really funny lines in there, and some physical comedy, especially with Tommy and his trio act, the Three Balls of Fire. The songs were good, not hits. It was a bit like they've been cobbled together from leftovers from other musicals, which I get that was done at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. They just swapped and changed a lot.
So I think as a bit of a downside, I think about 40% of the film just feels like it's not really relevant to the story. It's just stuff happening, but I get it. That's what they did. And then the last part, it finishes on a wonderful.
Yeah, you had a huge problem with part of it.
It came so left field to me that I just didn't expect it.
Yeah, from looking at it from a modern perspective.
Yeah,
it's totally.
So the finale of the film is this great big minstrel show. It just came a bit out of the blue. It hadn't been mentioned this so far.
No.
It didn't seem to be on the cards, and then they just kind of went, and everyone loves a minstrel show. Black up, everyone. And I was like,
it's very problematic looking at it
today.
now.
Yeah,
it's so racist. It's very bad.
It's not even tasteful.
No,
it's really distasteful.
Yeah. Broadway did a lot of it, so it's but it is extremely problematic for a modern audience.
It's just a shame, really, because it just left such a bitter aftertaste of a film that actually I was quite enjoying.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see the relevance to the plot either. Like they just dumped the musical they were doing and did that instead. It just seemed so weird.
That is something I'm going to bring up.
It was just so weird.
I will bring that up again when we carry on a little bit further.
Terrific. I think I'm next as well. So I'm going to go on to Meet Me in St. Louise.
I think we should go with Louis. I think we should stick with that one.
Louis. See, I've got in my head it's Meet Me in St. Louis. So I don't know. This is my first question, really. It's not a question. I watched the film and I still don't know, but I did feel a bit better that 15 minutes in, some of the characters were actually having the same discussion. Nobody seems to really know.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
What's right or wrong. So I will call it Dorothy Singing at Windows, because she does a lot of singing in like window frames.
She does.
And you think she would have learned after the last window incident, but that's our Dorothy. So it starts and there's a house, this big house, and there's people in it. I don't really know who anyone is at this point. And a girl walks in sneezing and she's singing, "Meet me in St. Louis." And I'm like, okay, where is this? And then I worked out that they live there. And I'm thinking, what is this morbid fascination with this place? And an old man joined in and everyone's singing and they're singing on the piano. And it's like, in my experience, when you've lived somewhere for quite a long time, maybe even all your life, you don't tend to sing about it like that. It's like me saying, "Oh, what a beautiful Preston," or But it did seem like a jolly nice place. You'll realise there's not much serious to take out of this film.
No.
So I've just written all my thoughts.
It's so inherently sweet, isn't it? It's innocent, a different time entirely.
Yeah, it was a simpler time.
Yeah, it totally was 1903 and 4, isn't it? I think it's set.
Yeah, in St. Louis or something. And then, basically, big family unit. In particular, there's 4 sisters. The second eldest is played by Judy Garland. She's called Esther, and her older sister's called Rose, and they're all very into boys and getting married and having the perfect proposal. And Judy's obsessed with the boy next door. It's just scheming people, and they're all romantics. You know what it reminded me of?
What did it remind you of?
It was like a few things. Little Women, obviously.
Yes, it does have that feel.
Not far off the period. It's sisters, things like that. It reminded me of Mary Poppins a lot, because you know the job that the dad has, the fact that they've got a cook, the layout of the house I thought was very similar. The staircase and stuff. And then August Osage County. So you know, dinner scenes, family fights.
And not quite to the dramatic violence of that movie.
August Osage County, yeah. And I guess things like Pride and Prejudice, because there's like ball scenes, you know, everyone knows I love a good ball or two. I want to go to a ball. Where's my ball? So yeah, there's loads of scenes that I really like key scenes. The dinner scene where the phone call's happening.
Yeah, that's a very funny scene.
The balls and the dances, I quite like that. It was good to hear the trolley song in context.
I love that song. It's just such a great song, that.
She just loves public transport. And then it sort of goes through the seasons, and I thought, oh, it's a bit of a Christmas film eventually.
That I watch it every Christmas.
I'll admit I didn't understand where they were at the end.
They were at the World's Fair.
Well, I thought St. Louis had a fair every year, and that's why they were singing about it all the time. And that's what, but there wasn't a fair yet. I thought that's where they were going on the trolley. I thought they were going to the fair.
No, they were going to where they were building it. Basically, at that time, they built a huge World Fair in St. Louis, and they've basically built the film around this kind of period in time because of that. Yeah. It was actually built there. No, you weren't to know.
I thought they were going to the fair, and then the reason he said, "Oh, the fair's about 7 months away," and I was like, so they've had this year's fair. And then they'll be going to the fair again next summer. And so anyway, I thought that's where they were going on the trolley. That's my review of Meet Me in St. Louis.
I just want to say, if we're obviously talking about Garland, this was the first time she worked with Vincent Minnelli.
I did write that in there somewhere.
Who she married. You might recognise that name
yes,
as her daughter, Liza Minnelli, was born from this marriage.
Yeah. And
what he did in this movie, I don't think there's many movies where she looks so extraordinarily beautiful. He's and like you mentioned windows. He absolutely frames her in this film. It's gorgeously technicolor. There's lots of colour in this film, as well as The Wizard of Oz, but he frames her perfectly. The Boy Next Door is a perfect example, and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and she is beautiful in this. He makes her look amazing. And it's almost like he's loving her behind the camera. So I'm not at all surprised he got married afterwards.
I see. Yeah, I really did enjoy it. I think I only took half a star off, and I can't remember what it was for. Probably not understanding where they were going on that trolley.
Yeah, maybe it's slight plot issues for you there.
Where are they going on this trolley, and why is everyone singing about St. Louis?
Right, okay. Anyway. So we're jumping into to my next one, which was The Clock in 1945, or it's been renamed since Under the Clock, but its original title was The Clock. So this one is one of her few non-musical roles. She doesn't sing at all, and this is in black and white. This one, it's a war film. Basically, you don't see any war. It's a soldier on leave. So Robert Walker is her partner. He's Joe, and Judy is Alice. And he's a soldier on leave, and she is living and working in New York. I should say as well, this was directed by Vincent Minnelli as well. Robert Walker is overwhelmed by this city. He turns round and round. He goes back into the station because it looks so big. And they have what would definitely count as a meet cute, as they say in The Holiday.
Yeah.
Judy Garland literally trips over his foot and breaks a heel on her shoe.
Clumsy.
And she agrees that he can go with her. They get the shoe fixed, and he asks if he can go a part of the way with her because he doesn't know where to go, what to do. He's not got his few days leave, and they end up like not parting for the entire time. And she keeps saying that she has to go home, but then she ends up going to the next place with him to go to a museum and different films. And this was filmed obviously at the very end of the war, so it has that feel. There's the soldiers and all the uniforms, and it very much feels of that time.
Yeah, it can be quite a bittersweet thing, can't it?
Yeah,
sometimes?
they're very much in the midst of it, and it's what life was like. There were like young couples meeting and being taken apart because of this uncertainty of the time. So he's a very sweet, naive country boy in the big city, and Alice's roommate tries to persuade her that she's just fallen for a pickup, but she's not convinced. She knows he's just lonely and has nowhere to go on his leave and doesn't know the city, and you can feel some kind of spark. But also she has this kind of maternal feeling to look out for him as well. So they spend the day together and the evening together, and unbelievably, you would not believe it, they deliver milk around the city like all night. They stay out all night. They meet a guy who they think he's a taxi, and he stops them, and he ends up getting hurt. So they deliver all the milk. Very random, but quite sweet. Unfortunately, they get separated in the morning, and they didn't even know each other's surnames.
Oh.
He's outside a building, and you hear the radio advertisement thing saying how many people are in the city. There's like 37 million, like all this, and you're just thinking, oh my god, all these millions of people in the city, how are they going to find each other again? And you spend all this time with them, and you're so upset for them. I was like desperately wanted them to find each other, and it's his last day, and the time's running out, and it really does make you feel. It's astounded how much you like feel for them, and they finally find each other, and you're like, oh my god, and they just had to get married. Just like obviously after a day. And it's after this that I think the film really shows its strength, because afterwards there's this silence. Like, what do they do now? Like, they're sat eating, and they ask each other like if each other's parents are living, and should they write to them, and there's so much that they don't know about each other. It just seems like this immense divide. And she gets very upset. It's very moving. And the film starts in long shots, showing how small the people are. Yeah. But as the film progresses, we get closer and closer to the couple. And then as Alice leaves the station after seeing Joe off, pulls back again, and she joins the crowds of people, and it's just lost amongst them.
It's just another story.
Exactly. It's very cleverly done. It doesn't quite have the same stylistic approach as his colour films have, because he did have a very distinct, colourful style.
Very vibrant.
But it's a beautiful little film, really.
That sounds all right.
There aren't many films that I want to see what happened next, but I'd love to know if they made it. I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. I really enjoyed watching. I haven't watched it for years, and it really was a lovely little film. I really liked it. Yeah, really liked it. Now we're jumping in to Easter Parade. This is quite a favourite of mine. I do really like this one. So this is set in 1912 New York, when vaudeville was at its height. And you've got Don Hughes, played by Fred Astaire, and his dancing partner, played by Ann Miller. She leaves him, basically. She's going to become a solo act, and he needs a new partner, and he's bitter, and he says, well, I could get anyone to dance. I could teach anyone to do what she's done. And he goes into a bar, and he picks out Judy Garland's Hannah Brown. And he starts to do all the rehearsals with her, and it's just, things aren't working properly. It's not quite going well. It's not what it could be. And then he learns she can sing. So they changed the entire thing. He tried to make her into Ann Miller's character, but then realised that it was only going to work if she was herself. So they changed the whole act, and it becomes much better. And this love story, and and they fall in love and all that. So this was supposed to star Gene Kelly, and it was all the way through its planning. They were the weekend before filming, and he broke his ankle playing volleyball. Apparently, he stamped his foot in frustration and broke his ankle. So consequently, Fred Astaire came out of retirement to take the role. And after this, it did so well, it completely revamped his career, and he went on for another decade, I think, after that.
Wow.
So the standout scenes for me, you've got Drum Crazy, which is Fred Astaire's first number, and it just shows all of his talents, his charm, even though he's essentially stealing a toy from a child. in this scene.
Uh-huh.
But it's just I've always loved drums. I've played the drums since I was a kid, and I just love the way it's built. That scene, lots of tap in that scene. It really does, shows his talents. And then you've got Shaking the Blues Away, which is another number, but this is actually performed by Ann Miller, she was one of the great tap dancers of the era. And it's not often that one of the side players provides such a showstopper number like this one. She really did get her time in this picture to make her mark, basically. And it shows off her talents really well. And coincidentally, Peter Lawford, who was the other kind of side character, he's also very memorable in this. He has a sweet English charm that makes you love him. So it's got a great kind of cast of characters in this. But the real standout for me is the Couple of Swells number. And this is two greats of the era having an amazing time at their best and really showing like their comedic chops, basically. So this song, they're dressed down like a pair of tramps. And this would have been hilarious in 1948 because obviously Astaire was known for his top hat and tails. So this was it's one of my favourite numbers of Judy Garland's, and it was an audience favourite. She performed it on a TV show like 15 years later, and it's very satirical. The lyrics are about meeting the Vanderbilts but not having the means to get there, mixed with this worn out clothing of the rich. It's just brilliantly performed by them. It really is a real standout. But that's what the film is really. It is just this plot built around a series of numbers, basically. Some solos, basically. But they're just so well done. They're both such star entertainers that it's just a joy to watch them do it.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, it's just magic, really. Now, my last one. Now, this is significant because this was her last film at MGM. It was Summer Stock from 1950. So at this point in time, there were a lot of issues going on. She was very unreliable. She had a lot of issues. She was late to the set. She was proving a real problem. She'd been suspended for pulling out of Annie, Get Your Gun, which she dropped down to a dangerous, I think it was like 80 pounds or something. She looked ill. She's so thin, and she just was not in a good place. A lot of mental issues. She'd had prescription drug problems for a long time. Well, we will go into that after we've done this review. So this film was sort of made as a comfort for her. It was the last chance, I would say. There wasn't going to be another one, and it turned out there wasn't. But they did everything possible to make this picture possible and get her in it and able to complete it. I'll say that, and I'll talk about more as I go on. So this is about a farm girl. She's running a farm, hasn't got the money, gets this new tractor from her future father-in-law as like a kind of a gift sort of thing. And she goes back, and her sister has arrived with this whole host of people who are putting a show on in her barn, and she knows nothing about it. Her sister didn't write. They're going to put this show on in the barn. And Gene Kelly's running the show. It's his show. And they fall in love during this, even though he was with the sister to begin with. And it's about them putting on a show, and she does actually have talents, and she ends up kind of helping out with the show. And very simple plot. It's not one people mention when you mention her films, but actually it was really good. I mean, it starts as It Means to Go On. She's singing in the shower, and she sings a lot in this movie.
She sings a lot in general.
It feels a little bit more, I don't know, it just feels a little bit more modern of the time. A lot of her films were period films. They were set years before they were actually made, whereas this one was actually, it looked like it was set in 1950. She's in the shower, you see a flash of skin. It wasn't like the other films. It wasn't old fashioned.
Yeah, you could tell it didn't have the same sort of restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, some of the film actually has some scenes that are out on location at the beginning, which was rare for a lot of the time because they were backlot films, musicals mostly. This is the third film that Gene Kelly and Judy did together. And he always credited Judy with showing him the ropes and being a huge support and showing him how to be on film, basically. So Summer Stock was essentially his way of kind of paying her back She was in a tough place, and this was him paying back that gratitude. And she was cheerleaded through this film, and supported by many people that she'd been friends with for years, and shown a loyalty to herself. So they all came in and rallied round her. But even so, she still asked to be let out of the movie. She started off fine, but it was hard work. It took a long time to get it made. And it was the last film she made for MGM. It ended a 15-year relationship and left her unemployed at 28 years old.
Yeah.
And considering it's the only thing you've ever known, really. She signed her contract at 13 years old.
Yeah.
That must have been really, really scary.
Yeah, and in a way, it probably wasn't good for her either to let her go.
This film, it doesn't have any great songs. Most of them were quite forgettable, but like all of his other films, it really shows Kelly's like blue collar dancing style, athleticism, and his entertainment factor. He could build a number out of just about anything, which shows a real genius for his craft. For instance, there's a number in this one where he builds the number around a squeaky floor, a newspaper, and his tap shoes.
It's almost like musical Charlie Chaplin.
He really does. He makes it look so easy. The barn dance in this is a great scene. It's the old fashioned traditional style getting bumped for the modern jazzy, and Garland and Kelly squaring off and strutting their stuff. And they just have the greatest chemistry. They really do look great together. It doesn't matter who she dances with, Kelly, Astaire, anyone, all eyes are on her. And that was never the case with anyone else that they both danced with. But everybody watches Judy, and I genuinely believe she was made for a close-up. There's a lot of these in it. She's got such expressive eyes, really stunning, and you get a number of those in this. I think you'll notice in some of your films that I did say I would point this back out, that the big show at the end that's supposed to be put on in like a barn, like somewhere small, it just suddenly looks like it's this massive, enormous Broadway stage, and it always makes me laugh. Like, it's hilarious because it just turns into this massive. Like, where are they? This isn't the same place, surely. This is massive.
Just some dreamscape.
The real showstopper in this is Get Happy. It looks like it's from a completely different movie, and it kind of, in a way, it was. It was filmed a few months later after the film wrapped, when they realised they needed a big number towards the end. It became an iconic number from her career, and that was the last thing she shot at MGM. So yeah, that was a joy to watch. I really did enjoy that one too. Now, we're getting into a little bit more serious. Today, when most people think of Judy Garland, they think of this tragedy, this tragic, like you said at the beginning, this victim. How sad it was. They were wasted talent, died too young, etc., etc. And obviously, Renee Zellweger even won the Oscar for portraying Judy in her later years and her later life, her unreliability, controversial relationships and all this. And I'd just like to note, though, that despite this unreliability that she's been kind of put with, in 19 years, she completed something like 93% of her scheduled bookings, which is about 1,100 shows. So wasn't that bad, I would say. So that's what we're going to be discussing a little bit here, just how this happened, what led to this kind of path, but also to remember that there's much more to it than that. So spectres of overwork and medication were frequent partners, basically, to her ascent in the business. She was a very vulnerable, sensitive person, which made her talents so exceptional, but it left her, what they've said in the book I was reading, it left her ill-equipped.
She was like an easy target for it.
She couldn't withstand the relentless career flogging dictated by her abilities, basically. She was given a campaign to reduce this naturally plump 4'11" frame to this 95-pound thing, and to get her there, this is the key thing here, to get her to where they wanted her to be, they supplied her with Benzedrine as a weight suppressant, and its enervating effects were then counteracted with barbiturates. And that is where the story started. So They dieted her by using drugs, and loads of them say, Mickey Rooney agrees as well, they were constantly on uppers and downers. They were given uppers to get up in the morning to give them that energy to go. But then how do you sleep? So they were given downers so that they could sleep and actually get what they needed. They were just dosed up. It just built and built and built and built. She was, over the decade from 1940 to 50, in and out of sanatoriums. She was treated for exhaustion and medical withdrawal because she tried to shake the pills so many times.
Yeah, but she'd probably spent more of her life on them than she had off them.
Exactly. And it became a real issue, and it was a constant battle. My main point that I want to make is that Judy was exploited for her talent. She was, without a doubt, Metro's greatest asset at the time. She was making them millions of dollars, and they didn't want to stop that anytime soon. So when she was burnt out and ill and really suffering from what today would be considered serious mental health issues, the studio, instead of giving her the time she needed to leave the screen for a time and rest and regain her health, they just kept on pushing, giving her small breaks, which helped for a time, but in the end were never enough. And it became a never-ending loop until by 1950, when she did Summer Stock, they'd had enough. And I truly believe that the way the studio system operated in this time and their unimaginable greed was the blame for her issues. I really do think.
Absolutely.
How different would her life have been if she hadn't been in a system that pushed so hard and personified ownership of its stars, controlling all aspects of their lives?
When earlier I said allegedly known as the Golden Age, it's that facade and
double-edged sword.
The actual reality of the industry, all about money.
Yeah, so I'm going to cut it there just a bit, and we're going to jump forward. So 1950, she finished with MGM. She was unemployable at this point.
Yeah.
She had so many issues. There was a few suicide attempts, lots of issues. But we're going to jump through to 1954, and this was her comeback. Interesting
word, comeback.
This is, I would say, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest performance she ever gave. Well, we'll go into it, but I think it should have been something else and it wasn't. So over to you, Matt.
Yeah, so there's been 4 versions of A Star Is Born. It's hard to know where to start with this, but first thoughts, Judy Garland was 32 in this film, but if you'd have told me that she was 50 or 55, I really wouldn't have said, ooh, that's a sad sort of starting point, because she's playing really a young up-and-coming person, and it's not 100% convincing.
Her lifestyle and the drugs and the drink and all, it aged her. She did look a lot older than 32. Yeah.
The version I watched was a restored version, and I don't know how well the word restored has been used in this context, because it's a 3-hour film, or the original intended cut.
Yeah.
But in the first hour, I get it's not the film's fault, but there's lots of still image inserts with just the sound playing, and they tried to almost storyboard out the scenes. Yeah. So after the first half an hour, it got really confusing as to what was going on, who was speaking, really what was going on in the story. It was really hard to follow. Very choppy is the word I'd use. Yeah. It was almost like watching the film that should have been on the DVD extras rather than the actual film.
Yeah, they butchered this. The studio took control of it, and the vision of what the film was supposed to be was ruined, basically.
It's like it was getting rewritten and reshot as they went. They weren't quite sure what was going on. But anyway, so Judy Garland plays another person called Esther. Esther Blodgett, who's like a singer with an orchestra, a bit of a showgirl, but not massively successful, just getting by. And at the beginning of the film, she's performing in a big charity event, lots of big names in the audience. One of the performers is supposed to be a guy called Norman Maine, who was a big name star, but his reputation's kind of veering off a little bit. Bit of a disorderly alcoholic, bit of a playboy. His reputation's starting to precede him a bit. And I guess not least on this night, when he turns up to this event blind drunk and manages to infiltrate the stage and her act, but she sort of manages to play it off and save him some ridicule.
I think it's quite good seeing that.
Yeah,
I'd have him pass me off.
To join in. And it works. She obviously makes an impression on him. He takes notice of her voice in particular. It's hard not to. And he sort of then pursues her afterwards, finds her, convinces her of her potential and her star quality, and says, quit the band, take a leap of faith with me, dream bigger, and I'll get you a screen test at the studio. which after a few cut scenes and storyboarding, he does. We don't see the screen test. I was a bit confused there. It just literally cuts to her first day. I'm like, oh, okay, guess she got it. So the first half of the film is her rise to stardom, though it's a bit rocky. And again, you might sort of see some parallels maybe with her own start. They change her name very arbitrarily to Vicky Lester.
Yeah.
They have her in a chair, almost like she's going to have plastic surgery or something, like talking about how her nose isn't right and how she needs a latex thing and her ears aren't right and her hair's wrong colour.
Which very much shows like the star system of the day.
Yeah. And then she's cast in really demeaning bit parts, just her hand out of a window, probably with a load of asbestos snow being sprinkled on her and stuff. But then again, it sort of jumps ahead again very quickly. She's starring in a major film next, and it's an overnight success. We don't really understand how she got to that point, but it's skipping a lot of time. And the first half ends, they've just got married, her and Norman, who's helped her along this way. And everybody's kind of a little bit, should she be getting married to him?
Yeah.
Is this a good thing for him?
Is
it going to be the breaking of him? Yeah. Either way, it's going to ruin one of them or both of them.
Yeah.
And that's what the second half is really. It's the balance shifting, and Norman's career is declining. So where she's risen to stardom, his is in complete eclipse. His addiction worsens. He's out of a job. He's sent to a sanatorium. Again, you might start seeing the parallels between Judy's life.
Yeah.
You can see parts of her in both characters, really.
Yes, I think so.
Which is where that scene comes in, where she's on the set of a film and she's doing this really jolly, happy song about losing a long face and turning frowns upside down. And between shots, she jumps into her dressing room and speaks with the studio head, I think, and completely breaks down. Norman's in the sanatorium at this point, and she's saying, I thought I was going to be enough for him. I thought I was going to be the solution for everything, and I don't know what to do.
It's heartbreaking, that scene. It's very well performed. She's fantastic in it.
There's something realistic and genuinely real. It could have been Judy Garland sat having that conversation, and probably wouldn't have been much different.
The director had sat down with her and said, you know how to play this.
Yeah.
You know this. And she did, which is so sad because she was him in a lot of ways. And to a point where she's saying she hates him could almost be construed as thinking, I hate me. Knowing what we know about her and what happened to her and who she was, and it's such a moving scene to watch.
Yeah, it makes a great moment in the film, but it's also sad because, it's art reflecting life.
Exactly.
Yeah, that scene in particular was really good. But there's other scenes where she's an absolute joy. And, I think she's sometimes at her best when you just give her a great big room and a great big song and a great big set piece and just let her be daft with it, which is what happens in I think it's called Someone at Last scene, where she's putting on a show for Norman in their house.
I love that scene. Yeah. It's one of my favourites.
So yeah, it sort of shows the ups and downs. And the other thing about the dressing room scene is where she wipes it all away in a second, dabs on the makeup again and runs straight back out and faces back on. She's got to carry on.
Yeah, and just in a second, it's like she's like hesitating and a little unsure, and then she's like listening to the music, and then snap, she's back.
Yeah, her character, a lot like her life, is this struggle between what's private and what's public. Yeah, I think, and that really shows in the film. But then, I mean, I know you're very passionate about this part. So the film, like you say, it was a little bit botched. She's incredible in it. Yeah. But when it came to Oscar time, and there was almost this promise that this is your comeback, you're going to win an Oscar for this. And when it didn't happen, what was meant to be a massive comeback for her was actually a nail in the coffin, really.
I'm sure she was in hospital with just having given birth to a son, I think, at the time. And they'd sent people out for photographers, because she was going to win this Oscar. And then it was like she never won, and they just, left, and she was just left there. I mean,
it's crushing, isn't it? The whole thing.
It's horrendous. And having seen the country girl that won for Grace Kelly, I just don't know what the hell they were thinking.
Yeah. The thing is, in A Star Is Born, there is a scene where her character wins the Oscar, and even that's like a horrible moment because Norman turns up drunk and ruins her moment. But almost the reality, the real event was almost maybe worse than that, and more crushing. And this is the point where I touched on it earlier, where her as Judy Garland and her as a character merged.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it was sort of the best performance she gave, because there was no two versions. There was no Judy the performer and Judy the whatever character she was playing. It was one person.
Mm-hmm.
It was about her. You could tell.
Yeah.
That role and the journey of that character mirrored her life, and she mirrored it right back. And from an emotional standpoint, she was able to put a lot into it, and it worked. Again, sad that it did work in a way.
Like you said at the beginning, she's very much thought of as a singer, not an actress.
Yeah.
But my God, she was fantastic. She really could act. She just wasn't given as many opportunities to do it.
And then she didn't do a film for about 7 years.
She did do a lot in this time, just films took rather a backseat.
Yeah. So then 1961 is a very unusual year because of the role that she took. So this was Stanley Kramer, who directed Judgment at Nuremberg, and already you can tell it's not a Happy Busby Berkeley musical.
No, definitely not.
Nope. This is very odd, like I said, because this was not a leading role.
No, not at all. It's a tiny part.
You can call it a cameo, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a 3-hour movie, isn't it?
Yeah, 3 hours, and she's in it for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
She's in 3 scenes in the middle, I suppose. It's actually a really good ensemble film of sort of veterans of the studio system. Spencer Tracy, Burt Lancaster, Marlene Dietrich, Montgomery Clift was close to the end of
he was
sort of
fantastic.
acting career.
Yeah.
And of course, Judy Garland coming in as well. It's a real acting masterclass. And her role is so small,
but very memorable.
Yeah, I think everybody packed a punch, a different kind of punch in this film. So the film itself, just to give some context, it's set in 1948, war-torn Nuremberg in Germany after the fall of the Third Reich. And Spencer Tracy is an American judge. He's been drafted in to lead the trials of 4 other judges who served on the bench during the Nazi regime.
There were a lot of prosecutions of people involved, higher up, all the higher up people.
Yeah, it's like doctors and businessmen and judges. There was a lot of accusations of crimes against humanity, as they all were, but sterilizations and executions, and then maybe or maybe not sending people to concentration camps. But everybody sort of is denying all knowledge of the Holocaust, really, at this point. The actual foundation of the film is a great big moral no man's land, because technically they were sentencing people in accordance with the laws in Germany at this time, but at the same time, what Spencer Tracy's character's got to try and do is assess the very definition of justice, and if they were undermining the value of a single person's life, then yes, you are part of the problem, and yes, you should be found guilty. So it's a very thematically very heavy film and a dialogue heavy film. But I suppose I should talk about Judy Garland. So she plays Irene Hoffman, and she is one of the few people who could be brought in as a witness to one of these individual cases.
Yeah.
Because she was 16 years old and accused of having an intimate physical relationship with an older Jewish man. Regardless of age, it was a Jewish man, which had been made illegal under the Nuremberg race laws. Yeah. So he was executed for that. She was sentenced to 2 years in jail. And she's asked to come and be a witness. So she very reluctantly comes along, because that's the first scene we see her when she's being convinced, and she's terrified because she's going to have to sit in the same room as the people who caused this trauma at such a young age. And but it's not until her last scene, the last of 3 scenes, where she is put head to head with Maximilian Schell's character, who is very unfairly interrogating her. Yeah. Because she's not on trial, and she's pushed and pushed and pushed to the limit and broken down, and it's a very, very powerful scene. And I don't know how many takes it would have taken, but I imagine she would have done a lot.
She actually asked him, she said to him off camera, she said, "Can you hit me more? Be tougher on me, because then I can feel more, I can give more." And she had a breakdown, and she got the tears, and he said, so I did that for her, much more than what was written in the script.
It's a bit unusual in the plot. You're like, why is this happening? But
he said, I invented a lot of things until she finally broke down. Then afterwards, she sent me flowers and a little note saying, "Thank you for being so mean to me."
Yeah. It's a very authentic scene. Yeah.
It's horrendous to watch.
But again, I think, especially in these later roles, I do sometimes question, how much of this is her acting and how much is this as her. But it kind of doesn't matter. It's her performance.
Again, Stanley Kramer said, for Nuremberg, I chose a singer to portray a frumpy, highly emotional German Hausfrau who doesn't have a musical note in her throat. I must admit, I agonised quite a while over this one. Judy's personal problems were well known in the industry, but the very disorders that made it difficult to work with her fitted perfectly with the role. Though she may have been difficult for directors to handle, she had lost none of her skills as an actress, and they were all wonderfully evident in this role. One need say no more than to note that, despite her fame, she was able to make herself eminently believable as an anonymous German Hausfrau.
Yeah, it's a completely unglamorous role. There's nothing about this that echoes anything she's done before.
It's not the famed star Judy Garland making a cameo here.
It was like the Uncanny Valley. I was like, I know that's Judy Garland. I can tell it's her, but
I think that's what makes it so great.
It's so far removed from what she's so used to, and so left field.
It's so great, and it's such a great little performance. It almost steals the scene. You're just like, oh my God.
There's a lot of scene stealers.
Yeah, acting masterclass, like you say.
Yeah,
absolutely. I would recommend this to anybody to watch because I think it's
I've got
fantastic.
to say, it's a 5-star film. If you've got the time to commit and you've got the right viewing environment and you're interested in the subject matter, this is a fantastic film. This is a 5-star film.
Oh, brilliant.
It's genius. It's a very, very good film.
Mm-hmm.
I really
very
liked
impressive. Fantastic. So that's the movies.
Yeah.
We're just going to wrap it up with obviously giving a bit of perspective on this whole thing. So, like you said, it's a very double-edged sword, this studio era, this golden age of Hollywood. There's so many issues and problems that were swept under the rug. So many casualties, and Judy being the biggest, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yet there's so many timeless movies, classics that we come back to again and again. The sheer star power, like nothing we've ever seen and won't again. And it was the studio system and its star machine that created all that. So we've got all this amazing positivity, this wealth of material, yet there's this other side to it, this dark side to it. And in 1960, an anonymous MGM executive actually admitted, he said, I see now that we exploited Judy in many ways. We treated her like a property instead of a kid. At the time, we thought we were doing her a favour. She had come up from nothing at all. We set her up for a lifetime of money and success. If the rest of us expected to ride along with her, that was only natural. Mm-hmm. The studio system was a factory. They called it a factory.
Yeah.
And this factory was run by movie moguls whose main interest was money, not art.
Yeah,
art was what the directors were trying for, and that came a lot lower down. But this was a business.
Yeah, again, very hypocritical.
Yes,
MGM's slogan is art for art's sake.
Exactly.
Which is,
and I'm sorry, but
ridiculous.
I think they were all blinded by money, and profits and success aren't everything. I'm sorry, but they're just not. And what they did to some of these people, it was tragic is the word I would use. However, if you talk to anyone, watch the interviews, anyone who knew Judy Garland, and you'll get none of that sadness.
Yeah.
They light up talking about her, how much fun she was, how they cherished spending time with her, how she was the life and soul of a party, how special she was. And despite all the misery, all this heaped onto her legacy, this tragedy, all this stuff over the past 50 years, ultimately, she brought so much joy to so many people and still does. And so many people who knew her said she loved to laugh. She was such a laugh. And her own daughter, Lorna Luft, said, yes, tragic things happened to my mother, but she was not a tragedy.
A tragic person, yeah.
And this is what you've just said. She also said only a few years ago, actually, that her mother was a victim of the studio system, exactly what you said at the beginning there.
Right.
But it also gave her the ability to channel her talent to all of us. It was a real double-edged sword.
Yeah, she still had that purpose. She was almost put on this earth to entertain, and she did.
Exactly. It was the studio system that created all of these horrible problems for her, but without it, we wouldn't have her.
And that's why we say she's such a good case study for that era. Yeah.
So that's
So that's
it.
a nice,
That's it.
nice
Lovely.
way to end it.
Lovely tragic ending.
And they
very
all
sad.
die at the end.
I really hope everybody's enjoyed it and learned a little bit, and I hope that people will go out and watch some more of her movies.
Well, I did.
Well, you did, and it worked out quite well.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm glad I had. There's obviously a lot more to it than Dorothy, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right, okay. So, lightning fast, which film would you recommend?
Am I allowed to pick one of yours?
Yes.
Yes. I would say because it really shows everything, like the whole spectrum of what she could do, I would say Watch a Star Is Born.
It's a good one. That's fine. I wasn't going to pick that one.
Yeah, it's got the acting, the singing, the dance. It's got it all in there. So I'd say if you're going to go and watch one, watch that one.
Yeah. I thought I'd decided, but maybe I haven't. Different recommendations for different people, I suppose.
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of people have probably seen Meet Me in St. Louis.
I don't know,
Louis.
I don't know if they have.
I think more people would enjoy that.
I think you were very right when you said it's got that tone of Little Women. So if people enjoyed Little Women that came out last year, you would probably get a lot out of this. There's just music.
You get the sense of like a family saga, really. Chronicled over a year, and lots of happy things happen. But I think Judgment at Nuremberg. I know it's a Judy Garland episode, so.
No, it still is a cracking film.
I think that's a 5-star film. I couldn't fault it. It's very long, but there wasn't a second that I thought was out of place or not at the right pace it should have been.
Yeah.
Very important film.
Yeah, and it is an amazing performance from her.
Yeah, really good. So Judgment at Nuremberg, which I learnt only has one E in it. Judgment, not Nuremberg. That does have two.
So what are we doing next, Matt? What's coming up?
Yeah, a little bit different. We wanted to do not a Valentine's Day theme as such last year, but a rom-com themed episode for around Valentine's Day. So we've transported it to this year instead. So we're going to do a favourite of ours, a film we've never seen before, and a recommendation from the other person of rom-coms. And we're going to have another quiz, maybe a shorter quiz.
Yes,
and we're going to look at what our top 5 rom-coms are as well. So nice and light, nice and fluffy and enjoyable.
Are you
going to
tease a couple of the films?
Yes, I should. I've not properly seen When Harry Met Sally, so I'm
we
going to
will
be watching
be correcting that.
It's not better than Pretty Woman, though. That's not.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's fine.
And other films in the mix: My Big Fat Greek Wedding and About Time. Just a few that we'll tease for now. So
fantastic. Okay,
that's coming in February.
Well, thank you very much for listening to my absolute gush fest of Judy Garland. If you've got this far, well done. Congratulations. So, it's bye for me.
And you can find us at...
Oh, sorry.
Well, we don't. You can find us on social media. Please do it. Like, follow, subscribe, please. And yeah, it's bye from us.
Bye.